Ladies and gentlemen, welcome again to another episode of the Sexy Suburban Dad. It is I, KP, and we got some guests in the house tonight, but before we get into all that, I got to introduce my co-host, my man 50 Grand. He is the Fresh Prince of Fort Smith. He is Dean Street's own, the man that used to run the town with the legendary Joe T. Perry. Sweet Lou, man. Lou, what's going on, bro?
Yo, what's going on, KP, man?
Can't call it, man. Can't call it. It's been a minute since we've done this here thing.
It's been a minute, man. Had a little hiatus, but we about to get into some real shit, man. Talking about a real classic TV show today. Get into it with The Wire, man. But first, before we get into that, man, go ahead and introduce our special guest today.
So we might as well just call this episode When the Too Smart Sexy Suburban Smoke Clears, because, man, we got the two smart dummies in the house. We got Big Facts, B. Reed himself, and we got Marcus, man.
Yo.
What up, fellas?
What up, fellas?
Big Facts, what's up, baby?
Nothing much, man. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for having us on here.
Not a problem, man. It's always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. So, as my co-host said, man, we're talking about one of the greatest, in my opinion. Maybe other people share the same opinion. Hey, if they are, great. But, got to be hands down one of the greatest TV shows to ever hit the airways, The Wire, man. A lot of people say The Sopranos. A lot of people say Friends. Look.
Sopranos trash.
Exactly.
Oh, whoa. Yeah.
Yeah.
Whoa, that's a bold claim, Big Facts. That's a bold claim.
Definitely a classic TV show. I prefer The Wire over The Sopranos.
Agreed.
You know what I'm saying? Because it's more of a showing more of a street life. You know what I mean? Instead of the mob life.
We will say this: if the two shows were NBA franchises, The Wire would be the Lakers, and The Sopranos would be like those '80s
The Wizards.
Celtics.
Okay. All right.
The Wizards? Come on, man.
Sopranos would be the Wizards.
No.
I don't know about all that.
They title contenders.
They won a championship in like 79. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
They was hot with West Unsold, but they ain't been hot
Here you go.
since niggas started shooting the 3-ball.
The disrespect.
Here you go.
Yeah,
Here you go.
The disrespect is real in this thing today.
I can't believe what I'm hearing, man. I like both shows, but I'm going to put The Wire over The Sopranos, especially after rewatching The Wire while we've been in quarantine these last couple of weeks, you know, having some extra time on my hands and taking it season by season. So what we could do, we're going to kind of do it roundtable debate style, all four minds from the Too Smart Network coming together on this one topic. And I'll start it off. One thing that I really like about The Wire as a whole is the writing style. If you pay attention, the whole series, in my opinion, is about the war on drugs. And in each individual season, you have the economy's effect on this war on drugs, education's effect on this war on drugs, the media's effect on the war on drugs, and politics' affair on the war on drugs. And in each, if you really look at it, in each, the beginning episode of each season, you get kind of like the syllabus or the thesis statement of what it's going to be. Like kind of like in the very first episode when McNulty's sitting on the steps with the witness, and then it just takes you through in this real circular motion throughout the whole thing. It's almost like a wheel. You get one part and it comes back.
That scene with the witness to open the wire is probably the realest scene in the whole Wire.
Exactly. And he explains what the show is all about in one sentence where he's talking about the game. You know, they're like, oh, well, why could so-and-so play? He's like, hey, man, you got to let them play. It's the game.
Yeah. I disagree. I like that scene. I like that scene a lot.
Damn it, you would disagree. Shit.
I think the best scene in the show is when Buck Moreland is talking to Omar.
Yeah, that was a good one, too.
And he was like, every man got to have a code. You know what I'm saying? Because at the same time, just because Omar street life and Buck is, you know, PD life, every man's got to have a code, man. You still got to do what's right in the day.
And this is the reason why The Wire is such a classic show and so revered 20 years after the fact, or damn near 20 years after the fact. So let's kind of break it down season by season, starting with season 1. So, Lou, since you kind of eloquently put that so well,
all right.
Who are some of your favorite characters starting off? So let's set the premise. Season 1 mainly deals with the Baltimore PD. The unit headed by Cedric Daniels, who's played by Lance Reddick, and the detectives in the units are McNulty, Dominic, who's portrayed by Dominic West, Kima Griggs by Soldier Sohn, Herkin Carver, and also Lester Freeman.
Right.
And then they also have a confidential CI, Bubs, a homeless guy who's an integral part of the story. And they're going up against the Barksdale crew. So Avon Barksdale, Stringer Bell, his nephew D'Angelo, Weebay Bryce, a lot of the soldiers in the crew. One of my favorites, Brody Brodus, and then Poop Carr and Wallace. So that's
naming Poop.
Man, he's a part of the story. He's a soldier in the Barksdale crew.
Poop was a wasted character.
He was, man.
I mean, I have to agree. Poop was one of the
Poop had a hell of a
wasted
redemption arc, man. Him and his hairline.
Man, his hairline was bad, man. Unforgiving.
Terrible.
Unforgiving.
And I thought my stuff was pushed back, boy. That boy had
You blinked, and by season 5, you was like, hold up. What happened?
Yeah, but you forgot the most important character, one of my favorite characters, Omar. You know what I'm saying?
Of course.
Savage, man, who robs drug dealers, man, and that's probably one of my favorite characters. Is him. My second favorite character is Avon, man. I think Avon doesn't get enough, props in the show. You know what I mean? Because he ran things, man. He ran things for a long time. He did a lot of work to get to where he was. So to see the growth or the lack of growth, once you start getting to season 2 and season 3. You know what I mean? You realize Avon is just who he is. He's just a gangster. That's it. He don't want to get out the game. He want to run the game. You know what I mean? Same with Omar. Omar is he's just a
long-winded ass nigga saying the same shit over and over again.
He's just a stick-up artist, man. That's all he do. He just want to make money, man, and make these niggas pay for selling on these streets, man. So those are two of my favorite characters for sure.
So what about you, Reed? Favorite characters, go.
My favorite character is definitely Avon. I think he ain't supposed to show growth. He's supposed to be who he is, man. Second favorite character, of course, is Omar. It's funny that Omar wasn't even supposed to be like a recurring character. He was only supposed to do like two episodes.
Yeah, that's true.
But he was so popular that they had to keep bringing him back. But I mean, those are my two favorites on the go dope side. But you can't not like the Bunk though. I
respect the Bunk. I respect the Bunk for sure. I respect the Bunk. Also, I like Lester Freeman. You know what I'm saying? He's real police, man. He gets the job done. You know what I'm saying? From in the office.
Lester always kept it real too.
He did always keep it real, man, and he was wise and he was respected. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So definitely.
But the one thing I didn't like a lot about Lester Freeman is that he had a lot in common with McNulty. I hated McNulty, and Lester, he didn't start out like that, but then as it went on, he started to act just like McNulty. I mean, yeah, it's about being police, but they didn't care who they fucked over in order just to be police. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, but they coming from a place where they got fucked over. I mean, Lester was in Palm Shot uniform.
Well, they didn't.
13 years.
They got fucked over because they don't listen, they don't follow the chain of command, and they do whatever they want. That's what got him in the pawn shop. He got out of the pawn shop and then started doing the same shit again to get him back in the pawn shop.
Yeah, but at the same time, Lester was like, look, I'm doing my job. You know what I'm saying? And his job landed him in the pawn shop. So when he got out of the pawn shop, he's like, well, fuck it. If I do right, I'm gonna get fucked over. If I do what they tell me to do, I'm still gonna get fucked over. So I agree with him. Let him ride it out.
Yeah, I gotta say my favorite characters from season 1, obviously Omar overall favorite character, but it's funny because if you ask me about season 1, I'm gonna say that Avon's my second favorite character. But as you move on, I tend to like Stringer Bell way more than I like Avon. It's just as the show grows and goes over both characters, I find myself like yeah. This nigga Stringer has the right idea. He trying to go legit like he's supposed to, like you know what I mean. And Avon just wasn't having that.
Nah, season 3 showed you when Avon got out of jail, and I know I'm getting a little head of the game here, but it showed you how much.
And that's when it flipped for me.
Trying to fuck with what Stringer was talking about. He wasn't talking about no real estate. He wasn't talking about no moving out of the game.
He was just concerned with being the king.
He's concerned about being the king, wondering why he ain't got them coins.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
And so,
well, let's go through it because I got a lot to say in season 3. But we got to go through the growth first. So let's
go. Let's get it.
So we start out in season 1. So basically in season 1, it comes down to, it starts off with McNulty in the courthouse. D'Angelo was going through his court case. He had just gotten a little scuffle and shot somebody and killed him.
Weak ass.
My least favorite character.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Everybody hates him.
Yeah, so basically, Avon does what he does. You know what I'm saying? Got the witnesses to turn. Basically, got him off. McNulty couldn't handle that, so McNulty starts pulling strings to get a detail over the Barksdale crew to try to take him down. That's the crew that's led by Daniels. Daniels is just supposed to be, a puppet to just do whatever Rawls and the police department want to do, because McNulty basically had a judge that he can call. The judge made the call to put this detail together, and they didn't really want it to go anywhere. They just want buy and bust.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Which means get the stats. Whatever rest you can get, that looks good on us. We're not really trying to, solve no case. We just want to get the low level people and keep it moving.
And on the other side, D'Angelo get out. He was running the towers, but he got demoted because he brought too much attention to the crew. So they put him in the yard. What was the yard?
In the
called?
pit.
The
pit.
They
Put him in the
put
pit.
him in the pit. That's where he met up with Poop.
Bodie.
Poop, Bodie, and Wallace.
If y'all say Poop one more time, he's an unessential character, man.
Poop was like a general in the first season.
Man.
Damn general.
I thought Pooh was a mute for half the show. They ain't give my nigga no lines or nothing.
It should have been on the block calling for 5-0,
Hey,
bro.
but you know what? While we sitting here roasting Poot, he did pull the ultimate G move at the end of season 1 when Bodie.
I mean, that's fair.
Poop was the G.
I wouldn't go that far. He did what
He let Poot in charge, and Bodie wasn't.
Pooh did what had to be done. I don't know. I would say he a G.
He did.
He just saw the bigger picture.
I would say he is.
He knew if Wallace was gonna be taken out, he had to put something on that gun too, so he wouldn't be labeled a snitch.
Yeah, he had to put on that little work. You know what I mean? Had to put that little work in.
But basically, so like I was saying, they on the detail. McNulty go through pulling all strings. See, the one thing I like about The Wire, though, and I always say, man, regular Baltimore cops wasn't going to catch up with those dudes.
No.
Because they were kind of ahead of their time of what they were doing. Nobody was putting the police work that they were putting in. They started off with pagers. They had a code that they was pushing in. They had to break the code. Then once they broke the code, they stopped using cell phones. They was walking like a mile to the payphone. Well, they weren't using cell phones then, but they stopped using the closest payphone. They were walking like a mile, never using the same payphone twice. Somehow they get up on that. Like, regular Baltimore police wasn't catching that.
100%.
No, you absolutely right on that, man. I like the code. The code was simple because it couldn't be too complex, but at the same time it's efficient. You know what I mean? Because everybody had their own. If you was important, you had your own code number. You know what I'm saying? Which is what Weebay had 07.
07, yeah.
Yeah, Stringer had 09. You know what I'm saying? So, like, you knew who you was reaching out to, when you put the pages in. So, you're right, man. Like, the technology, wasn't there for them to crack that code. It took a lot of hard work. What they put in, though, you got to think, man, in the season time, it was like a month or two that passed by before they really even got up on anything, you know what I mean? So, like, they really did do their due diligence, though.
Yeah, you got to talk about the guy who ended up cracking the code. It was Presbalewski, one of the characters we hadn't really gotten to yet, but he was the one that was kind of locked in, laser focused, and able to crack most of that.
Presbalewski over the series had the best evolution.
I was gonna say that as well.
Because when you first see him as like a knucklehead that
a goof,
that only got on the force because his father-in-law is like a lieutenant or something like that.
A major, he's a major. Yeah, Valchek. Yeah.
No Valchek.
Yeah, he was known for shooting up his car. They go into the projects. He beat a dude up and mess up his eye where he's blinded. So that's the reason why he was even in the office, is because he wasn't even allowed to go out. Like, he blinded the kid in one eye. Didn't keep him out the game. No, he was still a hustler, but so that's why he was in there. But he turned out to be a big part of the case because he was like a puzzle breaker. He was one to break all the codes and figure them out.
Yeah, no, he definitely was a fuck up. You know what I mean? And I felt like he did all that shit because he didn't want to be there. But then when he got into the situation of where he got put into in the office and working on a serious case with good detectives, then he kind of found his stride. You know what I mean? Like, he actually, enjoyed being there because he felt like useful. You know what I mean? Compared to when he was just, doing patrol or whatever he was doing before. He just felt like, fuck it, I ain't trying to do all this shit.
So what do y'all think of D'Angelo's arc in season 1? What you think, Marcus?
It was my least favorite character. Like everything about him just annoyed me. There were times during the whole series where just the sight of him and McNulty just pissed me off. But
I hate it.
yeah, but D'Angelo Barksdale was easily my least favorite character, and I could not wait to see what ended up happening to him.
Well, I think D'Angelo's arc just shows that he wasn't built for that game. He wasn't built for what the family business was, and it's really, and you'll see in later seasons how, and I know I'm jumping ahead a little bit here, but how Naaman Bryce's arc is kind of similar to what D'Angelo Barksdale's is. The hustlers and the gangsters that they come from, they're just not built in that same mold, and he just did it because he felt that he had to, just because of who he was related to, and he couldn't really handle all the ramifications.
But they told him that, and that's the irritating part. They made that very clear to him.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Big facts.
So the thing that I don't like about it is that if they wanted to paint their character like they painted with Naaman, I understand. But when you get introduced to D'Angelo, he had shot somebody. You know what I mean? Naaman would have never shot anybody. Naaman would have ran.
I disagree. I feel like D'Angelo and Naaman are in the same boat.
See, I don't think
D'Angelo only shot old boy because Avon broke it down to you because you was scared, you couldn't take a beating. You know what I'm saying? So you pulling a gun when you really could have just handled the situation with your hands. It shows that's how you're not built for the game, because you're pulling a gun just because you're afraid to get your ass whooped.
Yeah, but
you in your building with your people.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
There's a lot, because if you gonna say that, you can say that about Weebay. Weebay ain't fighting nobody. Stink ain't fighting nobody.
But Weebay and Stink putting in work though. They're putting in work to knock niggas off, not to, you know what I'm saying?
They hiring the game.
D'Angelo had a beef with a nobody.
Bro, the only people that I seen use hands were probably Chris. In the whole series.
But that's not the point though. We're talking about the situation, not the actual hands. The situation didn't call for a pistol. It called for you to square up and fight.
And you got to think about
it. When in The Wire did you see anybody square up and fight?
But you got to think about this though.
That's what I'm saying. They're going for what the situation calls for. If Avon said this nigga's got to go, the situation calls for you to bring a pistol and shoot this nigga, not to fight. D'Angelo beef inside the tower didn't have anything to do with anything. Like it was just him and old boy beefing. That's all it was. It wasn't a call down from the big man saying this guy got to go. It was just a regular beef. And D'Angelo acting scared because he a weak ass nigga. You know what I'm saying? So.
And to your point, you just said that Weebay and none of them dudes had to use hands, but it was because of the mere fact that they had a reputation. They were some of the most feared hitters in Baltimore and West Baltimore at that time. True. The only reputation that D'Angelo Barksdale had was, this nigga Avon is his uncle. That's right. It. Like, he's softy.
But going back to that, it's the family business. Like, which is like, when you grow up, like just like if your dad played a professional sport, your responsibility is to get to that level as well, to follow in your father's footsteps. Same thing with the game. Avon was a father figure to D'Angelo. D'Angelo's grandfather was in the game, and his grandfather before that was in the game. So it was just assumed that you're supposed to do this shit too. There is no other path. There's nothing else for you to do.
But the part I don't like about it is like he had already made moves in the game. That's what I'm saying. Like he was working the tower.
Did he put that work in, or was that nepotism of D'Angelo of Brianna, D'Angelo's mom coming in and say, "Hey, take care of D'Angelo." And him was putting him in the tower and be like, "All right, bro, like this is your shot." Because he only put him in the pit because he fucked up. It's not like he came from the pit, because they didn't say like, "Why did you come back?" They were just like, "Oh, I thought you had a tower." Yeah, so he was put in the tower without earning a tower, and now he got demoted because he fucked up.
Yeah, I mean,
resounding silence. That means we all agree with you. I mean, congratulations, you just bounced back from your L in episode 3. Check him out. So, all right. So, as time moves on, the crew eventually gets busted due to the work of Detective Griggs and then the confidential CI Bubbles. I liked how he took the red hat and kind of identified different people when they were up on the rooftops. I thought that was creative and I thought that was fun. But starting with Marcus, so what do you feel was one of the most pivotal moments of season 1? Like, what was kind of one of the moments that kind of just took you by surprise, so on and so forth?
That's a good question. I mean, I definitely think it was the whole situation with Wallace and and Pooh, and Bodie. Like, I understand why they had to do it, and like Wallace's character was very interesting to me because he was another one who probably wasn't built for that game, and they showed that pretty quick. And when they sent him away, it wasn't that he missed the game; he just missed kicking it with his homies, and showed back up in Baltimore, and ultimately it cost him his life. And to have both of his homies, the ones that ended up doing him in, tough game, man. That shocked me.
And that all came from just because he saw Omar's boyfriend,
right?
And he made the call to D'Angelo. That weighed on him because instead of like dumping him somewhere else, they dumped him right in front of where he stayed at. Like, they all stayed in that abandoned building with that another like pit area, and they dumped the body, that mutilated body, right outside, and it kind of fucked his head up. So even though he might not have been built for the game, he could tolerate the game until he saw what his actions had caused and how brutal it was. So that's the interesting thing about Wallace, because Wallace would have probably just maintained as a low.
Yeah, he'd have been a corner boy.
Corner boy until he decided to move on, probably like Pooh. But because that messed his head up and he's the one that made the call, it changed everything about him. And another interesting thing, every season, the police fuck up and get people killed.
Oh, yeah.
Witness protection is
yeah.
Yeah.
But that's real life shit, though. You know
Only reason he came back is because Daniels, when Kima got shot, I think the most pivotal scene in season 1 is Kima getting shot. Because when Kima got shot, they didn't go back and get Wallace. So Wallace came back and he got shot. It also implicated Weebay because little Weebay made that phone call and they had dropped that can. She identified Little Man, and that traced back to everything in the organization. And they took that illegal wiretap in Avon's office. That's the only reason why Avon got hit. But the dirtiest move in the season, even though D'Angelo was a hoe, I still don't know why you send him on the highway to go get the pack and drive back to New York when you know the cops done. You gonna send your nephew? I'm like D'Angelo. I probably would have took the deal after that. They don't love me.
Look, man, things will scare us, man. You know what I'm saying? Like they just hit the spot. They hit the re-up spot. You know what I'm saying?
So you gonna send your family? You send Bodie,
desperate measures, man. You know what I'm saying? Now you got to put in this work.
Nah, you don't send your family on a mission like that. Like, that's why his sister was mad. Like, you send them no follow car, just alone to go pick up the work and come back. That was a setup, man. You do that to a sucker. He did that to his nephew, bro.
The most pivotal scene, the biggest pivotal scene to me was when Omar walks through the projects, he walks up to the door, tells him to give up the package.
They dropped that shit out the window.
That's the pivotal moment to me, because it shows you the reputation that he has, and how he was feared, even though he was just one man. He was a one man.
But also too on that,
I like how he talks
on that too. Like, with the most interesting part about Omar's character was, like, especially for the early 2000s, was the fact that, like, he was gay and, like, you know what I mean, and it was known though.
Yeah. It was like, you don't know, and it wasn't it wasn't
mainstream as
right.
It
is
now.
Mainstream to be gay back
right.
then. You know what I mean? And not only that, you robbing.
Right, exactly. Okay. So
that's
crazy.
Like,
that was an interesting twist, and I kind of just slipped my mind until Beatty said that. Like, I completely forgot about that whole situation of him.
It's like you don't notice it because he's so
right.
tough and he's such a gangster.
Like, it doesn't stick in my head really.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Right. But it shows you because they were taking it. Avon and them were taking it. Oh, he's a faggot,
right.
so he's soft.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not showing you like, he's he can man up just like everybody else, man. So that it showed real diversity by doing that. You know what I mean?
And one that just didn't make a main role in season 1, but was a whole from season 1 on, was Prop Joe.
Prop Joe.
Prop Joe was the one that gave him Weebay code that almost got Avon knocked off.
you realize, and I know we're getting ahead of the game while me saying this, but you realize when Prop Joe gets killed in season 5 or was season 4?
Season 5.
Season 5. Like, you think about everything that he's done got him in that position.
But he had the package. I mean,
it don't matter though.
You got that good package. You can last with that shiny shit.
Him giving Omar the, you know, he dealt with Omar like 3 different times, trying to get at the other people on the west side. You know what I'm saying? He gave him a WeBase pager number, right? Then, you know what I'm saying, what he do in season 3, he gave him a package so he can get at where Marlo be staying at. You know what I mean? Like, all that kind of shit. That was his demise in season 5, because the way he got set up to get popped was exactly how he set up everybody else.
Oh, he had that coming.
I mean, season 5 was all about justice.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure.
So where do you guys feel season 1 falls in amongst the 5 seasons of The Wire? Like, where would you put it?
It's my second favorite season.
I would agree, second favorite season.
Yeah.
It's probably my 4th favorite season.
Whoa, why? Let's get into that. Unpack that real quick.
It's my third. I rewatched 5. I used to like 5. I didn't like 5 when I rewatched it, so I say it's my 3rd favorite.
Actually, I'm afraid that season 1 is my favorite season, just because how it introduces everything, how it introduces the game, and then how it proceeds through the whole series. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I'm gonna say it's my second. I think season 4 was.
Season 4 is my favorite season.
Season 4 is the best one.
I like season 1 and then season 3.
Season 3 was good.
Then
yeah.
Season 4.
Yeah, see, I can't put 1. Like, I like 1, but I think 3, me personally, I think 3 is the best season by far. So I put 3, and then 4 is really close. Like, 4 is a great season.
It was just.
So like I have to put 1 as my 3rd. And then I probably even put 2 as my 4th now after I went back and rewatched it, and then probably 5.
Yeah,
5's my least favorite for sure.
Yeah. And season 2 really gets slept on a lot because I think it shocked a lot of the viewers when it first came out because it was such a departure. You know, you're going from the game, the street, and all of these characters that were built, and you transition over to the working class, the docks. It's really that season where it shows the economy's effect of the war on drugs, where you have these dock workers not really getting the work that they used to get, not making the money they used to get, and now they're having to resort to getting to the game to make ends meet. And so I think that was a pivotal season. You have it really tells the story of the Sabatkas, Frank Sabatka, Nick Sabatka, and Ziggy Sabatka, and then their dealings with the Greeks. And it does tie back in a little bit to Avon and his crew. Now most of them are in jail or dead, and so you're following up with them. So season 2, quick thoughts. Who are some of your favorite characters from season 2 of The Wire?
Let's see. Season 2, I like Von Dopoulos. He's that guy, man. You know what I'm saying?
Spiros.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Spiros. Yeah, Spiros Von Dopoulos. I like him. I like how he ran things. You know what I mean? They were very cautious, very careful, but still very demanding, still all about business. And, man, they had their hands in so many different pots, man. It was ridiculous as far as, like, the smuggling, the prostitution, the drugs, the thieving, just everything. You know what I mean? Like, all across the board. Yeah, like, they ran a tight ship, but they had everything flowing.
You know, it's...
Yeah, my favorite character in this season is Stringer Bell, because you get to see what it looks like with Stringer Bell running the organization, how he's really trying to run it like a business, how he's organized, how he's keeping mileage, he's running his crew through tests. He got a different SIM card for his phone, but the problem where he couldn't really get past was the fact that he didn't have a package, because the simple fact that Avon went in and Avon didn't really get a lot of time because, you know, the lawyers and how they finessed the system. The Connect in New York didn't really trust Avon. So he couldn't get a package in there, and they were having trouble holding down the towers, holding down the pits, holding down everyone because they were stepping on their product. Prop Joe had the best product. So that's definitely was my favorite. And then he didn't have a big part, but Brother Masai.
Brother Mazone.
Yeah, Brother Mazone.
Brother Mazone was hard.
I like Brother Mazone, man. He was old school muscle. Like no tolerance, no fuckery. Like he doing the job. I fucks with Brother Muzon.
But he educated. It's like, the fruit of Islam almost, man.
That's what I was about to say. It was definitely
Real
like a
clear.
Nation of Islam cat.
Yeah, not animated.
And he was another guy, just like Omar. It was all about the respect that was on his name. You know what I mean? That people feared him. Didn't even know what he looked like, but when they told him who he was, his name rang out. Because people know, like, even Prop Joe was like, "Look, man, if Brother Muzon is over there, we ain't doing nothing. We just gonna chill out." You know what I'm saying? Just because he knew the consequences of crossing a man like that. So.
And that's my favorite scene of season 2 is that confrontation between Brother Muzon and Avon. Like
Omar.
Hold on, which one? The one where he gets shot or the one where he come back?
Nah, he come back in 3. In 2, he shoots him. In 3, he comes back. So in 2, when he kicks it in, he shoots him. And Brother Muzon don't show no fear. He's just laying there. And Omar believes him, shows him respect, calls 911, gets him in there. That's what saved his life. He didn't give him another shot, but he respected him. You know what I'm saying? And Brother Muzon respected him because he know the game. So that was one of my favorite scenes of season 2.
I enjoyed.
I gotta say though, when I first watched season 2, did not like it. Like it was my least favorite of the series. But when I went back and rewatched The Wire, probably still my second, just because of how slow it was compared to season 1. Like being sandwiched in between season 1 and season 3, and how much they slowed it down.
Right.
Like I understood why they had to put it in there. It was actually a good season.
It was a slow grind.
It was, but my favorite part of that season when D'Angelo got like finally. Like I was just so tired of that dude. I hated him, man. I could not wait for that to happen. It made season 2 worth it.
It was kind of like the writers got tired of him too. Like, man, let's just write him out. He wasting time.
He crying and shit. Where the fuck is Walt?
Yeah, but like with
see, that's the one thing that I didn't like about D'Angelo. Like, I can understand him being mad, right? He had to take the years. He did it for his mom, whatever. You know what I'm saying? But once you're in there, Avon is coming to you and telling you, bro, I got a plan to get your years cut off. He has like 20 years. I don't care if he cuts 10 off. Like he's saying, like this plan that I got, I'm gonna get both of us out. I'm about to cut this 7 down to nothing. I'm gonna take some off your time too. He's trying to get you out. He's trying to help you out, and then you still shitting on him. Like even if you mad at him, you at least take the deal to get out.
And the thing about Avon, he never cuts D'Angelo off. Even though D stopped messing with him, Avon invited him to the cell. He got the chicken in there, he playing NBA Live on the Dreamcast Xbox and whatnot.
We been in there eating that chicken.
You better get in this, get on this.
And that also shows you the level of where Avon was, man. Because you got to have money to be able to do shit like that, bro. You got your own cell in a crowded prison. It's in the corner. You got a radio. You got a TV. You got a game system in there. You got guards delivering you food, bro. That's the respect.
That fool had a GameCube.
You know what I'm saying? That's not only the respect of who you are, but that's also bread too. Because like half of it you can get just on your name. The other half you paying for it, but you like shit. I'm gonna be out this thing in a minute, so it don't even matter. But you catering shit like having your boys come to your cell and eat, bro. That's everybody can't do that kind of shit. That's
and the last thing this nigga D'Angelo worried about, was that dirty heroin that you gave him? Did you do that?
Yeah.
Like, the fuck is wrong with you, bro?
That's why I could not wait for him to die. And you knew it was coming, but you just could like. I think it was like 5 or 6 episodes in, and it was too damn long.
Well, yeah. Once he kind of spit in Avon's face after he was like, "Look, man, I'm only gonna do a small piece of the 7, and I'm gonna have you do a small piece of that 20." You know what I'm saying? We're gonna get this done. When he didn't, appeal to that, I was like, yeah, he gone, man. Like he out of there. You know what I'm saying? And I just didn't know that Stringer was gonna do it. I knew Avon, he a soldier, man, but he couldn't take out his family like that. So Stringer did what had to be done. Yeah,
yep.
He just did what had to be done. Another character that I like that slept on. My bad.
Oh, you good?
Cut you off, bro. But Nikki Sabaka, man.
I like Nikki.
Man, he was smart.
Yep.
But he was green. And it shows you like, smarts.
Ziggy was a D'Angelo.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I was like, they replaced one annoying character with an even more annoying character. Like Ziggy was,
now,
but you know what?
Was bad.
But it just shows you that smarts. You can't just have book smarts. You got to have street smarts because Nikki, he was smart as far as like, doing this, doing that, you know, so get the package, have somebody else work it, just collect the money, stuff like that. But what he wasn't smart about is he left the dope in his house, in his mom's house. He had the money in the same place. You know what I mean? Like, he was showing too much flash. And if you see in season 1, man, Avon didn't show
shit.
Flash, no flex. Like, the boy didn't even have a house. He was staying with all his chicks. That just shows you the level of how.
Yeah, it took him probably in season 1. It took him 5 or 6 episodes to even get a picture of him.
Yeah,
and it was just a whole picture.
So you think about it, that's like 1.5, 2 months before they even really got anything cooking on him.
They didn't actually see his face. They only had that picture of when he was young. They didn't see his face until that game.
Yeah, that was like episode 8.
Yeah, when he drove by. That's the first time they see his face. But season 2, the way it tied into season 1 was that McNulty had gotten reassigned to the docks. So he was basically on a boat to keep him away from doing real police work. But this actually was probably the best version of McNulty that you see in any of the series. Like, he's not really drinking, you know what I mean? He's doing the casework. He's on the boat. He can't get back on assignment. He's really one that starts the big investigation because he finds the girl in the water.
Yeah, the floater.
Yeah, he finds the floater, and then there was like 13 girls in the container. But he's the one that got the cases put on the homicide department because they had pushed it on to like the county. But he went and did the research to kind of fuck them over and got it pushed back on him. So
yeah, and then they introduced Beatty Russell like that too, her character, because she's like working the docks, and so she ends up working with Bonk and homicide.
But the one thing that, like, when I watched it when I was young, I just wanted to see that gang shit. You know what I mean? I want to see them slinging dope. But then when you get older, you start to appreciate like Frank Sabata's his struggles. You know, trying to keep the union. Like, they ain't got enough money. The only way that he has enough money to like support all the needs of the union is because the docks aren't getting the boats that they used to. So the only way he has the money is to do this illegal activity. Like, he doesn't want to be in illegal activity. He wants to be in the minimum amount as possible. But he's only doing this because he has to. And then you get Nick Sabaka, who wants to, you know, be bigger. You know what I'm saying? He wants more. He don't want to just do the bare minimum to help his people. He wants to better his life. So he starts dabbling in more and more and more and get them tied up into drugs and a bunch of other stuff that they weren't tied into before.
Well, yeah, you know, I think Nick Sabaka, what he saw was, you know, oh man, I've been busting my ass for so long working in the union, and it's just not paying off. But I see these guys on the corner, you know, barely doing anything and just having cash just flowing in. You know what I mean?
Flip that key.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? So it's like,
key.
And you know, a lot of people think about it like that because it's like, man, I'm working like my ass off, 50 hours a week, 60 hours a week, bringing home pennies compared to these guys on the corner. They're still working long days because, you know, they could be out on the corner for 12, 13 hours a day, but they making $5,000, $6,000 a day compared to a couple of hundred.
And he kind of got that key for free, so he got like 10 stacks. 10 to
well,
12.
no, he got it for the cameras. Remember, like they boosted.
Yeah, but I'm
cameras.
saying it was like a payment. So to him, it wasn't like he paid for. You know what I'm saying?
For sure,
Usually, you pay for. You put like your $12K in it, and then you gotta flip it, and you gotta pay to connect. But he kind of got that from a lick that he was gonna hit anyway. He said, "Damn, I flipped it and got that. Is that easy?"
Yeah, boy, they said that half and half. Boy, that's a come up right there, boy.
Yeah.
But you know, also another character who doesn't really get a big part in season 2, but season 3, season 4, he really started to shine. That's that sweet motherfucker Clay Davis, boy.
Clayton Davis.
Yeah.
Yeah, that when Frank Sabaka realizes like he gave Clay Davis $40,000 just to show up to a party, you know what I mean? That's like the sweetest shit ever because he was like, yeah, man. He was like, I might check out your little port thing. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna need a little more of that paper though. It's crazy. He had his hand in everything. He had his hand on the port.
Clay was a real boss, man. He was, man.
He's a real boss. Finessing Stringer Bell the whole time. Everything.
But that's what I love about The Wire is because when you dig down deeper into it, you think that Clay's just getting all this money for him. But then by the time you get into the politics of season 3, then you realize that he's the fundraiser. Like, yeah, he's taking money for himself, but he's responsible for raising the money for Clarence Royce.
Right.
So he's the guy that goes out there and get the money. So when he goes to get 40, he may keep 10, but 30 goes into the fund to keep getting them reelected.
Right.
So that money goes into the pot. He's responsible for going to get those people that money.
He keep it more than 10, but he probably keep it 50%.
Man.
And you know, it's funny. It's really funny. Speaking of money and politics, we need to just really glance over the whole reason why the dock workers got investigated in the first place. It was because Major Valchek was hating on him.
Yeah.
He saw that they was out there getting money. He liked that shit, so he told Daniels to go look into it.
Of a glass inside of a church.
Bro, look,
Exactly.
it just shows you how fucking petty people can be, man. Like, them guys didn't show. I mean, Frank, yeah, he was doing dirt, but there was no way, no evidence of anybody doing dirt. Valchek was just being petty.
Yeah, he was a hater. A first class.
I know Frank's about
He's in the
shit.
he's in the hater Hall of Fame.
You looking at that shit?
Oh,
Yes.
bro, he's the biggest hater in any
He's
show.
in the hater Hall of Fame.
He's right up there with Tariq St. Patrick, bro.
Ooh, I
Hater.
don't know.
Nah, he beat
He
He's
did
alright.
beat Tariq, but Tariq is a close.
Yeah.
He pretty high.
Hey,
He
you know
pretty
what?
high.
They're the only two characters. Like when if you ever see them in public, you call them as their
Yeah,
first name.
trying to
Fuck
fight
you
him.
about
Yep.
shit. Tariq, I'm gonna beat your ass. Man.
I mean, that was fucked up. Just hated on him. Look, what this motherfucker do with all this money? I don't like it. Hey, he pulled the big head Rico from Belly, man. He's like, I don't
Yeah,
like
just
this
hating.
shit. I'm about to
Yeah,
drop a
I don't
dime
like
on
that
this.
shit.
I don't like that shit.
But in season 2, though, there's only a few things that cross over. Even though there's a few important things, like you got to meet the Connect that becomes big. You see that Prop Joe has a good relationship with the Connect. You see that Stringer really is trying to get out the game and try to do something different, and Avon just ain't about it. You know what I'm saying? He ain't about giving.
Well, you start to see the fraction a little bit.
Tell him, you know, we got this packer from the east side. All we got to do is give up this. He like,
Yep.
hell no.
Fuck that.
He's seeing Brother Masad out there and Masson. He's seeing Brother Masson out there. Stringer sets him up to get him out, so that just sets up the relationship for when Avon gets out. Those are probably the most important things because you see that Stringer's trying to get out, and Avon ain't about getting out. Avon's just a gangster, man. He
Yeah,
want to
but
hold his territory.
You also seen Stringer overstep his boundary, though. You know what I'm saying? Because he was tippy-toeing on that line like the whole season 2 and season 3, but he fucked up when he set up Brother.
Right.
Yeah, Brother.
Well, that's because Stringer didn't know the game though. Like,
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Look,
Nah.
Avon told him straight up, he's like, bro, you do not know this game.
Don't do that.
Oh, sorry. He's like, bro, you do not know this game because, you know, shit like that don't fly.
Right.
You can't. You the only person that knew where this nigga was staying, man. I don't care how good Omar is. Ain't no way he finding out.
Brother Mazzone is.
He's
Yep.
laying his head at. You know what I mean? And then you go to the hospital to ask him, oh, who done it? Like, nigga, you set yourself up to be like.
No, that ain't how he found him. He actually found him because he put the bald head dude. The bald head dude was going. No, that was the second time.
That was second time. Yeah, that was second time.
Right?
Yeah, no, I mean, don't get me wrong. Omar was good. He always staked out his people. You know, the people he was hunting and everything like that. But you got to remember, Omar met up with Brother Mazzone at Butchie's bar and told him like, this is the man responsible for killing Brandon. Gave him the address. You know what I'm saying? So it was
Prop
like,
Joe. Yeah, that was Stringer. You mean Stringer met up with him?
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Stringer made up with him. So that, I mean, he fucked up by doing that. You know what I'm saying? Because, bro, this man is here on your man's name, and you know you betrayed that trust, bro. He was done. After that, I was like, he done.
Yeah.
I knew he was done.
Well, let's get into that season 3 because I think after you get past season 1 and 2, then season 3 and 4, they kind of go fast. And season 3 is pretty much like the end of the Barksdale. It's like the conclusion of the
And
Barksdale.
here enters Marlo Stanfield.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, the
Marcus
most psychotic,
Marlowe.
the most psychotic person in a TV show ever. Him and his crew, hell,
Yo,
races.
I
Those
gotta say,
motherfuckers
man,
straight savage.
like one thing I
Yes.
appreciate about The Wire is the fact that like they were authentic to Baltimore. Prop Joe, Snoop, like that. They are really from Baltimore.
well, a lot of it's based on
Yeah.
a true story. David Simon used to be, I think, Baltimore PD, and he used to work in the news, and so a lot of those are based on true characters like Bubbles, Marlo Stanfield, Avon Barksdale, Stringer Bell. Like, all of them are based on real peoples, and I think that authenticity is what made a lot of people gravitate.
But Chris and Snoop, I'm talking about, those are some of the best characters in TV history because they scared me. Like, those are just cats you didn't want to run into at all.
And didn't Snoop do a bid in prison for like 12 years on the murder?
Yeah.
Is that Snoop?
Yeah. It's like she's.
No, she just got drug charged. I didn't see.
No, I think she's in jail for a murder charge right now.
For a murder, or she was in jail for a murder back in the day. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you're right. This was before The Wire. Yeah. And then she went back in for like some kind of drug charge.
I like how they stayed authentic to the game though, because you see, like, the show Power, right? Half of those characters are not making it from season 1 to fucking season 5. Okay, that's why I like it. That's what I like about The Wire, is because that shit happens like every day. Like, somebody important could get popped at any given time. You know what I'm saying? As much as I love Ghost's character and I love Tommy's character, one of them wasn't gonna make it all the way to season 5.
Well, Power ain't nothing but Black Game of Thrones though. The Wire is based in realism.
Yeah, because I'm about to say, number one, they walk around in New York with guns on a regular basis. Ain't nobody in New York walking around.
You gonna catch a charge so fast?
Walk in the house.
Man, you know what I'm saying? You can't even conceal and carry.
You can't do shit in New York with a gun.
So I already heard Marcus is siding with Stringer Bell. Kerry and KP in this season. Whose side you take? You siding with Stringer or you siding with Avon? That's what it comes down to.
Man, you know what? I gotta side with Avon. Because String went behind his back. Now, I like Stringer Bell a lot because he reminds me of Nino Brown, another one of my favorite characters in one of my favorite movies, New Jack City. He's about his business. You know, he's not about getting caught. He's about evolving from the game. But it broke my heart, man, when String snitched on Avon in the season 3, man. And he just was dirty about it. He went behind his back. I mean, he took care of Avon. But at that point, it almost seemed like he thought that Avon owed him because he held it down while he was locked up and that he took care of things. And it's almost like he tried to play Avon. And that's what I didn't like about that rift between the two. So I got to be on
Can I defend myself real quick, though? I didn't say I sided with Stringer Bell. What I said was I appreciated how Stringer Bell went about his shit. Okay? Like, I understand. I identify with Stringer because it's like, okay, he don't want to do this forever. He saw the bigger picture, but the whole shit with Avon, he was dead wrong. Like, I mean, like we said, he didn't know the game and he fucked up. And we knew that he was going to be killed immediately, but I liked where he was going. He saw the bigger picture.
Well, it's kind of like the Boondocks. Avon was caught up in the nigga moment where Stringer was like, seeing the bigger picture. But I think one pivotal moment, let's kind of take it back a little bit, because season 3 was pivotal because it showed the effect of politics on the war on drugs. And I think one big pivotal thing that came out of season 3 was Major Colvin. So he's over, I think he's over West Baltimore when he created the area of Amsterdam where he effectively legalized drugs.
They say y'all can do whatever the hell y'all want over here.
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about that really quick. What did you guys think about Amsterdam in season 4 and how that fit into the overall narrative? Go, Marcus.
In season 3?
Or season 3, my bad.
I have mixed emotions about how I felt about Amsterdam. Like, I get it, but I also feel like the part of it is that's kind of how it is in real life, right? It's like y'all can kind of do whatever the hell y'all want here, but this can't affect the money like going outside the city or up the ranks, basically. So I don't know, man. I mean, I felt like it was a crucial part of the show to show like how messed up the game was, but also how crucial it was to the entire infrastructure of that show, right? Like the politicians needed that to be going on because the money still got to be turned on. You know what I mean?
Because they were juking crime.
Exactly.
Stats. That's the reason why they tried to do it the whole time.
And they didn't immediately shut it down. They were trying to find ways to keep it going. It's just Carcetti exposed it because he was trying to get Royce out and make him look bad. But Royce was trying to figure out a way to keep Amsterdam going because the crime numbers had dropped so far down. And because you look at it, the neighborhoods were clean. Like, people were able to go outside, so they weren't stretching across all of Baltimore. You know what I mean? So it made a lot of neighborhoods clean. But on the flip side, I mean, Amsterdam looked bad. So if you just go look at it, it was bad. You know, crackheads just walking on the street, people smoking. You know what I'm saying? Drug dealers out there slinging. The optics of it looked horrible, but it was actually probably better for the community as a whole.
Yeah, I think it was a plan that was, good plan, poorly executed, because crime did go down. However, like, you know, I feel like they waited too long to do some of the good things they could have done, you know, like, you know, bringing, you know, people down there, drug outreach, you know, stuff like that. You know, they kind of just, you know, moved. It started out as a test, and then they tried to keep it, but then they didn't know where to start to fix, you know, all the parts that was really fucked up about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
there was bodies dropping left and right. You know what I mean? Not only just from overdoses and shit like that, where, you know, they could have had people out there, you know, taking care of them, making sure that they're being safe. You know, it was just poorly executed. You know, it was a big major part of season 3 though, because it just shows you like a small part of when they start gentrification in a certain area. That's how they do it. They just move all the bad shit out of that area and just say, all right, now we're going to drive the property value up.
Yeah, but one of the biggest problems is that area was going to get worse. Like, you could see it was gradually getting worse before it got shut down. The only reason that it wasn't worse to start with is because people didn't trust it. Everyone thought it was a setup or a trap or something like that, so people weren't really going there. But towards the end, when people started to get more comfortable with it, they started setting up those trap houses. Like Omar's little crew was in there snatching people in the houses, robbing them. You had bodies that started to fall. You had people fighting out there.
No, that wasn't Omar's crew. That was just a ragtag.
Nah, that was the girl. That was the girl, the Tanya, and the other one. That's what they're talking about in the house. That they pulled them in there, and that's what she was like. That's the easiest lick we ever hit.
Oh, talking about when they had when dude was selling the jewelry and whatnot.
Yeah, jewelry. They put them in the house.
Yeah.
It was the girl. She put them in the house. It wasn't Omar doing it. Like, Omar wanted to leave from there, but the girl was pulling the lick in the house.
Got you.
But yeah, like, I mean, I don't think Colvin deserved to get the punishment. Like, he was the fall guy when it actually helped them all out. So I think they kind of screwed him over in the long run. My man had an $80,000 job. So, you know what I'm saying? They threw him under the bus. You know what I mean?
And so, quick question. So season 3 introduced a lot of new characters here. So you had
season.
Yep, so you had Slim Charles, who's one of my
Slim
favorite
Charles, I forgot about that, yeah.
Hey, Slim's the guy. I like that.
You got Cuddy, you got Cheese, and then of course you got Marlo, Snoop, and Chris. So let's just go
in season 2.
He did.
He did have a bigger role in season 3 though. Yeah.
It was more expanded in this
Yeah,
season. And then Prop Joe, his role is more expanded too. So out of that season, what are some of the characters you guys think had a bigger impact on the show moving forward that were introduced in season?
Oh, definitely Marlo and his crew. Even in the beginning, as slow as they started out, it was pretty clear that they were going to be an immediate threat to the Barksdales. But I just like the development of that crew in general. I didn't really, from what I remember, I didn't really know how big they were going to get or how they were going to take it over. But they posed themselves as an immediate threat, and like the difference between Marlo's crew and the Barksdale crew was just how clean and precise Marlo Stanfield's crew was.
No attention.
I like the way how Marlo took it over. Like he waited until Avon was weak. Like he was still in the game. He still had some corners.
He just bit his time though.
But he bit his time correctly, because when Avon went in, then that's when he started slowly working his way to take all the corners that Avon had, but he couldn't fulfill them because he didn't have the package, he didn't have the muscle, you know what I'm saying, he didn't have the corner boys, you know what I mean? So he slowly took it over. You've seen him really playing chess instead of checkers, stuff like that. And even when Avon got out, he kind of fell back a little bit to kind of, look and see what he needed to do to really, get him out of there, like, for real. You know what I mean? So I like
very cerebral.
I like the smartness. Yeah, I like the smartness and the strategic moving that he did, for sure.
Well, it was really a big change for the Barksdale crew because they didn't deal with corners. Like they had the towers and they had the pit, so they pretty much controlled the project. So when they knocked down the projects, that was different. That was a change for the Barksdale crew, because then the Barksdales had to move outside of the towers and the pits and start to take over corners. Most of the corners they didn't have to really take over because they didn't have that Prop Joe package. So, they just went on there and worked out a deal, and most dealers were willing to work with them because they knew the respect that Avon had and didn't want to fight with him. But Marlo was a lot like Avon. They didn't really care about the business. It wasn't so much about the money. It was more about the power of being king. They wanted to be king.
My name is my name.
They wanted the power. So when Stringer kept trying to come to his crew and pitch that to Marlo wasn't trying to hear it because he saw an opening that it's time for me to become king, and they don't have the firepower that I have, and I can take over all these corners. So even though I may not have the corners right now, I can just be patient and I can wait till all this shit blow over, because Avon don't have the firepower to take us out, and eventually I'm gonna be king. He wasn't about that co-op shit. Marlo was an advanced version of Avon.
Word.
I would say Marlo was not only an advanced version of Avon, but I think he was what Stringer Bell ultimately wanted to be, because he got afforded a lot of the opportunities that Stringer Bell wanted.
I think Chris was Stringer.
That's kind of what I was gonna say.
I think Chris was comfortable playing his position, because later on, like, all the decisions went through Chris, and Chris's job was to protect Marlo. And
he was the hitter.
That was Stringer's job in season 1, and Stringer did that well. It was only when Stringer got a taste of power that he started trying to do other things that was outside his means. Like you said, he didn't know the game. He didn't know all the rules to the game. Like, he had the boys. They asked him. He had the boys go shoot at him on Sunday. Avon's like, bro, you can't do that.
That's a neutral day.
Understand the rules of the game. And then he didn't even understand the rules of business, because that's why Clay David was fucking him over. He was trying to learn all this stuff on the fly and implement things from corporate business world into the game. And Avon was trying to make him understand, bro, you can't do that because you don't know that game. You're outside of your game.
But Chris was
like, you're playing baseball, but you're a basketball.
Right, and Chris
you don't understand the rules of that game.
Chris was more of the get my hands dirty lieutenant, and Stringer was more of the in the background doing the bean counting lieutenant. But yeah, I would say Chris and Stringer played that Stringer Bell role more. He was just the more hands-on, grimy version of him.
And I don't think Chris he didn't want to be the guy.
No.
At all. Like, I don't think he wanted any part of it.
He's comfortable in his position.
He was very comfortable in his position. He was comfortable where he was at. He liked what he was doing.
And him and Snoop, man, when you talk about putting them, when they showed up, they putting people names abandoned warehouses.
The vacants.
Hold on, that's season 4.
Oh, my bad. Yeah.
But season 3, I think Avon really made a mistake, because he was literally fighting a two-front war. You know what I mean? Because he knew that there was a rift between him and Stringer, and then he's also fighting these corners against Marlo. So he's fighting on two fronts, and he can't focus on one thing. In season 1, Avon was mad focused on being efficient, doing the smartest thing. He gets out and he's just worried about, when he took over before, he gets that adrenaline thrill of taking over. You know what I mean? It's like the chase. The chase is the one that really brings you that feel. He hadn't had that adrenaline rush in a long time, and he got addicted to it. Later in the series, when it really comes down and that relationship breaks up, and he realized he has to turn Stringer over, he realizes, damn, dude was right. This shit ain't even worth it, man. Let the little nigga out of corners. You know what I mean? So that's why I side with Avon. This whole beef and this whole rift is because, like you said, everything that Stringer did was behind Avon's back. It was snake. It was dirty. Avon at least told him what he was gonna do. No, bro. He was at least straight up about everything he said. The only thing he wasn't straight up about was the brother was something, but that was his name. If he didn't turn him over, Avon would have never had that connect again, because they said, you told me to come down here, so you got to turn him over, and that was just part of the game. But the shit that Stringer did, going to turn him over to police and get him 7 years on a power play, that was just a bitch move right there.
Yeah. And Avon was even willing to pay, but brother was on, man, let me just give you this paper, man, so you ain't got to knock down my guy. He was like, no, that's right.
Yeah, he got to pay his dues.
Gotta pay his dues, so I respect that.
And so we get a major character death in season 3. Of course, the aforementioned Stringer Bell finally gets his due to Brother Mozone and Omar. So what did y'all think of that whole scene when Stringer Bell finally gets popped?
He earned that.
I think it was his job. Yeah. I like the scene with Avon and the brother before that when they were teeing off. But yeah, when he got it, man, he got it in a situation of going there talking to dude about his money. You know what I mean? So that he was getting fucked over. Like when he came back and he found out that Clay was screwing him over, and then he told Slim that he was gonna have to go knock him off, and Avon was like, "Nah, bro, Slim gonna have to sit this one out, bro. I told you don't even play that game." Yeah. So he went back to the white dude and he was arguing with him about that. So he was in a situation where he was he was over his head. You know what I mean? All those situations, Stringer was over his head. He realized it, and it all came to a head in that moment because he's arguing with the dude about getting his money to.
And so, really quickly, before we go into season 4, one of the most interesting characters I thought was Cuddy.
You froze?
You know, the former Barksdale associate gets out of jail, and he embarks on a different path. What did you guys think about the overall character of Cuddy and his interactions with the crew?
Man, I didn't really like it. I mean, I guess I understand why they did it. They were trying to sell, like, what he did, like 15 years?
Yep, something like that. Cuddy.
Yeah, Cuddy did like 15 years. When he get out, he tried to be a soldier, but he see that his heart just ain't in it. You know what I'm saying? He had dude teed up. He couldn't pull the trigger. So I could see they showing a gangster transitioning out of prison, but I didn't love his character.
No, I mean, I did. I liked this character because it showed you that, you know, some people either get out and do the same shit or some people change. And he realized real quick that this wasn't the game for him anymore. So you know, he moved on to the to the boxing thing. That's what he was in.
It was more of a footnote in the show, though. Yeah. Just
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, you know, he was a decent character. You know.
I'm gonna tell you one of my favorite scenes is when Cuddy come in there and after he had worked for Avon and he quit, but Avon respected him because he did time with Weebay or whatever, so he had respect for him. He understood.
Well, he did 15 years. He respected him for that. He was like, "Look, bro, you didn't snitch. You didn't turn anybody over to get out and do." What
but when he got out and he started working for Avon and whatever, so he started that gym up and he's trying to get funding. He go in there and he talking to Avon. He giving his pitch, talking about the gold and the platinum.
He said, what we gonna do is we gonna have the gold circle club.
And put your picture on the wall.
We're gonna get their name written in gold. He's like, come on, man, you don't want my name.
Nigga, how much you need? He was like, man, you know about 10K. Like, nigga, you go jumping all these hoops for 10K. Get that nigga 15.
He was like, man, give him 10,000 in this thing. Give him 15.
Oh man.
But yeah, those are my favorite parts about season 3. But like, let's get into y'all favorite season 4. Season 4 really focused on the schools and the school system, how the politics affect the school system, and it really started at the end of season 3 because Carcetti, through that whole thing, you saw the Clarence Royce Carcetti battle going back and forth, and that's another thing about politicians thinking that they know something, but they don't really have the mess. You know what I mean? So when he gets into office, he realized that the school is running a $54 million deficit. So all the promises that he had made when he got in there to pull crime down and shit, all that shit go out the window when the school is running a $54 million deficit. So that's how they transition from season 3 to season 4 being all about the schools, because now Carcetti wins the mayor, and now all the shit that he promised he can't even do because the school is in such a big of a deficit.
Yeah, it just shows you, like, when a politician is out there making the promises of what he can do, he can't help it if it's shit that he don't know about once he gets in office. And that $54 million deficit is something that he definitely didn't know about. So now it's just kind of like, oh, well, you told us you were going to do this, you're going to do that. I was like, shit, I can't help that I didn't know about this $55 million, you know what I'm saying, debt that we owe for the schools. Like, it has to be taken care of.
And it just shows you the level of corruption, like, at every main infrastructure in that city. Like, that's you know, that's kind of the overall plot of The Wire, right? It's like, well, like, the corruption affects every single part of this city, from the docks to the schools to politics to the streets. You know.
Yeah. It definitely shows you that people have their hands in everything, and they think it's just certain cities. Nah, bro, it's all over the place.
100%.
I mean, as you see, Clay Davis is getting money straight off the street for donations. That's really just going into his pocket. You know what I'm saying? So Avon can get. Going back to season 1, so Avon can get all the projects that they're going to do for all the properties that he bought up in season 1. If you remember that, like, he bought up a whole bunch of vacant properties because he paid off Clay Davis. So Clay Davis told him, like, hey, we're doing a major rebuild down here. So if you buy up all these properties, when you flip them, we're going to give you 3-4 times the worth.
He bought up trash properties.
So he buying trash properties, but Clay Davis, on the other hand, he just got $30,000 just for that little piece of information. You know what I mean? So it just shows you, like, at every level, somebody's trying to come up, and then there's always got to be a middleman. There's always got to be a top guy. Everybody's getting paid.
And so, quick recap going from season 3 to season 4. So, Stringer gets killed. Avon gets rearrested because Stringer snitched on him, and so they raid the warehouse.
Omar retired.
Omar basically retires. Colvin gets fired for Amsterdam, and then McNulty gets demoted to being a patrolman.
Right.
And what did Daniels get promoted or no? So Daniels is now
he made major. Yeah,
because Colvin gets stepped down. Yeah, so he makes major, and Burrell is still commissioner. Rawls is in deputy ops.
I think Burrell was on his way to being.
Well, he was on his way out in season 4 in this next season.
Right. Yeah, you're right, KP.
Go ahead, KP.
Yep. So he was on his way out in season 4. But in season 4, I think the cool thing about it, so Presbeluski also gets fired because there was a shooting involving an undercover cop. And so he gets fired and he becomes a teacher, and that's where the setting gets set up within the schools. He's the new math teacher, and the children in his class are introduced. So you have Naaman Bryce, you have Randy Wagstaff, Daquan Dookie Weems, and Michael Lee, which I guess you could say in the grand scheme of things, it seems like they're the next ones up in this game in The Wire.
Yeah, and I think they had the best, like, because they weren't there. They were only there for 2 seasons, but their arcs happened so quickly, and they were well written. Like, each one of their arcs, I think they did a good job of showing how they transitioned in 2 seasons. But you have other characters that didn't transition as fast. So I think they did a really good job with all those school kids' arc and showing how they transitioned.
Yeah, it also shows you, like, how early they get into the game. I mean, you're talking about these kids
12 and 13.
7
Yeah.
years, you know what I mean? Like,
But that's the one thing that I like about it, because one thing is that Marlo, at this point, it starts off early with Snoop going to buy a nail gun. You know, that's the first scene of the season.
Boy, and that's some crazy shit when you find out what she buying it for.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you buy it for. But he's taking over. Now. Marlo's the boss, but there's no bodies, and they can't figure it out. Like, they won't even do an investigation on Marlo because there's no bodies. Because Chris understands, as long as you're not dropping bodies, the police aren't interested. They don't care about the drugs. They just don't want the homicide rate to go up. So they figure out a way to drop bodies and hide them where nobody's even finding them. So most of the police department that not named McNulty doesn't even care about Marlo's crew. And it's all about what Marlo's doing.
I mean, you got to think.
Well, Freeman and Griggs care.
Griggs
and
was
Moreland
still
cares.
working.
Yeah,
on it.
I'm saying the people that matter, that can authorize it, nobody cared. They was going to on a East Side drug dealer. They weren't worried about Marlo at all. They were trying to get them on Marlo, but they put a tap up on somebody else. Even when Daniels went back there, Daniels was like, all I care about are the bodies. I don't care about nothing else, and Marlo's not dropping bodies. So, but you see Marlo out with the kids before school start, giving like every kid $200, saying you don't have to earn it. That's how they get in the game. They have nothing. Oh, you need some school clothes? They're just going giving kids $200, and that's where you see the drug dealers out there. They give me $200. That's how you get new corner boys. Mike was like, I don't even want it. That's what made them intrigued by Mike, because Mike refused to take money from him.
Yeah, Mike was definitely like the.
He stood out.
Well, not only did he stand out, he was more. You got to think of what happened in his childhood. You know what I'm saying? He was like, oh, they're gonna want something if they give me this money. You know, he was
like
already
adults taking advantage of.
Right, exactly. He was already hip to the game. He was like, nah, bro. He was like, what I gotta do for this? And they were like, nothing. He was like, nah, man, I don't want that, because he already knew in the back of his head, like, they're gonna come back for an ask. Oh, remember when we took care of you, got you them school clothes, and whatever. Now I need you to come over here and work these corners for us.
And Monk is an underrated character.
Man, Monk was weak.
I like Monk.
Monk was weak.
I like Monk, bro.
Monk was weak, man.
But it also shows like the randomness of when you're doing everything quote unquote the right way, the best way you can do anything with selling drugs and keep the police off your back. It all falls apart because a nigga gets mad because another nigga is smashing his girl. You know what I'm
right.
saying?
Yeah.
So he murders him, and that's how Randy got in trouble. It's a snowball effect. And that dude was with Brody's crew. I can't even remember his name.
Man, what was? I can see his face right now.
Which guy?
The guy that got mad that Monk was knocking down his girl.
He was only there. He was only in it for like one episode. He was with Brody, and Brody was teasing him, saying, "Bro, you ain't gonna do nothing." He was like, "Yes, I am." And then outside the club, he shot the dude with the bucket hat. And when he shot the dude with the bucket hat, well, Marlo was like, "You know what I'm saying? That's just one dude. We ain't gonna start nothing big, but we gotta take care of him because he touched ours." So that's when they went to the fat dude, and Randy, the fat dude told Randy,
Lil Kevin,
to meet him told him to meet him at the park. And then that's what fucked up Randy.
Then Randy became a snitch.
That one thing of going and telling him to meet him at the park pretty much fucked Randy life up.
Yeah.
And quick tidbit. So Cheese is actually Randy's father. It's never mentioned in the show, but David Simon, that's how he wrote it as.
They also say that Butchie is Avon's grandfather.
What?
Butch Stanford. Yes, sir. Look it up.
You said Butchie is Avon's.
Yeah.
That ain't possible.
Yeah. When D'Angelo.
So it was the name you were thinking about was
you know,
Lex. So Lex was the guy that
it's Lex.
did the shooting.
You know what I'm saying?
And then
Lex
Little
was the
Kevin
guy
told Randy to tell Lex a girl was waiting for him.
Lex
at the
was
park.
the guy that you're talking about.
That's right. Yeah.
Oh.
Lex. Okay. Yeah. I was trying to figure out. That seemed like such an insignificant character, but now, okay, you can jog my memory now.
Yeah. Lex was the one that got all that started when Lex shot dude in the bucket hat. And when Lex shot dude in the bucket hat, that got all that stuff rolling with the school kids. That's why Randy was always jumping because of that. So, but yeah, the kids telling stories saying that. And it's funny because everybody's trying to figure out what Marlo and Chris is doing with the bodies, but the kids know. All the kids know where the bodies are. Like, if you talk to any of them, they'll tell you the bodies are in the vacants.
And they said they were turning them into zombies,
When you walk into the vacants, you know what happened. So all the kids in the neighborhood know where the bodies, but the police just can't figure it out because the code is you don't talk to the police because you can die.
Yeah, KP, yeah, they were turning them into zombies. That's right. I forgot about that little part, too. Yep.
So, but yeah, like KP was saying, you said Cheese is Randy's father, right?
Mm-hmm.
They also say that Butchie was Avon's grandfather. Because if you think about when D'Angelo was in season 1, he was in jail. I mean, he was talking to the lawyers. He was like, you know who Butch Stanford is? They was like, Butch Stanford's my grandfather. If you look it up, the way they wrote it, he's supposed to be Avon and D'Angelo's grandfather.
All right, let me fact check you.
Yeah,
after episode 3, I got to fact. I have to fact check everything you say after episode 3.
I had to look.
What you mean? Look that up. Boy, you better stop. I don't watch The Wire more than a few times.
Yeah,
I don't watch it about 10 times. I ain't never.
You like Trump. I got to fact check everything you say, bro.
Anyway, but basically, if that shows you though that because Omar and Butchie was real tight, that just shows you that it really is all in the game. Because he knew that Avon and Omar was beefing.
All right, so hang on. Here we go. So Butch Stanford is the grandfather of D'Angelo Barksdale and also the father to drug kingpin Avon Barksdale and Breonna Barksdale.
Bro, you don't ever
now
sleep
hang
on me, boy. You don't ever sleep on me.
Okay, Butch is also known by Blind Man Butchie when he talks about him to Omar. Now hang on, wait a minute. I think these are two different folks, dude.
They gotta be
two different people. They're two different people.
If he's known as Blind Man Butchie is the one that owns the bar, and
well, no, this isn't saying that Blind.
47 years old, and his grandpa ain't still alive.
Yeah, so this doesn't say that Blind Man Butchie. It just says that Butchie knows Butch Stanford. Yeah. It doesn't say they're the same person.
Nah, they ain't the same. They couldn't be the same person, bro.
Man, look, KP don't know how to read, bro.
Just hold your L. Hold your L. Bro, you from Van Buren. It's not much different.
Bro, we 6'8", bro. Y'all was 2'8", okay?
Get out of here.
Yeah, the graduation class of 27.
Wrong again, but hey, we'll let it slide. We got guests, and I don't want to bust you out too bad.
Yeah, but I like how Marlo and Chris and his crew ran Baltimore. I think they did a much better job than Avon and his crew. You know what I'm saying?
Avon was just sloppy in comparison, that's all.
Marlo and Chris was smart. You know what I'm saying?
Avon wasn't sloppy in comparison. Y'all talking about season 3 when this man had no muscle.
Bro, listen.
No help. That's what y'all talking about. You're not talking about season 1 when he ran the city.
Bro, they kept trying to. The only reason that Marlo's crew got caught is because Minotti made up some fake serial killings. If he didn't make up those fake serial killings, Marlo and Chris never.
And they still running Baltimore to this day.
Wiretap.
If McNulty didn't go to a court case that had nothing to do with his case, then Avon would still be running the streets.
And
what
then,
do you mean?
and then if you think about it, even when they caught the bodies, the only reason they were able to tie it to Chris was the simple fact that Chris stomped out Mike's dad. If he didn't stomp out Mike's dad, then they wouldn't even been able to tie the bodies to Chris.
Yeah, they would have because Freeman found the nails to the nail gun that he put the nail gun into the baby.
Also,
they didn't find the nail gun.
Well, Chris spit on him, and that's how they found it. The
they
DNA.
found his DNA on his father. That they knew the nails, but they couldn't
Bugs'
prove that
dad.
the nail guns went back to Chris.
Yes, they did because when Hurt pulled him over, they had the nail gun.
They threw that in the ocean.
But he still knew that he had the nail gun. It doesn't matter if he threw it in the ocean.
Listen, I can know you have something. I know he sell dope. You can't
About what
prove
you can
that
prove.
They couldn't prove that. They couldn't prove that he had. That's why he threw the nail gun away, because he knew that nail gun, they could trace those nails back. But you can't prove. Like, if I shoot somebody, you still got to find the gun to match the ballistics and prove that I had the gun. They couldn't prove that was their nail gun. They didn't buy it with a credit card. Snoop handed that nigga like $900 and told him to keep the change. She didn't even go to checkout. She just handed the worker the $900 and walked out the store and said, "You earned that buck like a motherfucker." How they go trace it back? She didn't even make the transaction.
So real quick, speaking of the characters of the kids, so a couple of them stand out. We've kind of gone into Michael Lee a little bit. You got, Randy Wagstaff a little bit. You got Michael Lee. You have the Daquan Dookie Weens. You got Donut. But one of the most interesting characters to me is Naaman Bryce. He kind of gives me that D'Angelo Barksdale vibe. You know, Weebay's son. He comes from money because they were taken care of by the Barksdale family. What do you guys think, really quickly, of the character Naaman Bryce?
Man, he reminds me of so many motherfuckers I know from high school that was weak and soft, but only got respect because of some type of status, whether they played sports or they knew, or somebody knew them and had money and they dressed nice. And all he did was pick on people.
Or they was so and so's cousin. Everybody knew not to fuck with so and so. So,
but they soft.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Not built for the game. And once they get called out, I mean, once he ran away when the dude robbed him trying to get that pack. Well, that pissed Mike off. Mike slapped the shit out of him.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Mike slapped the shit out of him, like 17.
I gotta be honest though.
Made him cry and everything.
As a man, for somebody to take you and not even hit you with a fist, just hold you down and keep slapping you on the ground.
Mike,
you don't come back.
Mike is probably my favorite character of season 4 and 5. Like, his character development was so in depth, and like the way that he went from being this kid who was street smart, was like, no, I'm not doing this, to really cashing in that favor with Marlo and Chris when like it was absolutely necessary. To him figuring out that the whole thing was Snoop. To figure out that Marlo was basically grooming him from the moment they saw him. They was ready to groom him, take him under his wing. You see what happened to Randy and how that could happen to a lot of kids in the game. But Mike's character just was so in depth and so intriguing.
They foreshadowed with Mike so good because when Mike first went into, they do the little training. When they first did the training with Mike, and Mike was going against Chris and Snoop, he actually won that. Like, he ended up shooting Chris and Snoop in that little training with the paintball gun, and he did everything that they were teaching him. He shot him in the stomach, then went and hit him close, and he shot both of them. And they were like, "Man, you picking it up quick." So that was just foreshadowing them that he's picking it up, and he would be Chris or Omar in the future because he's a natural gunner, and he picks up those skills faster than anybody else.
Yeah, definitely a lot of foreshadowing that he becomes the new Omar Little, especially after the series finale, the little what do you call them? Little vignettes where he's robbing the rim shop and whatnot. Yeah, kind of jumping ahead, and then it's just with Michael Lee, he has so much put on him at such a young age. He looks out for a lot of people. He looks after his brother because his mom's kind of an absentee parent. You could tell that.
I was about to say his mom's a crackhead, right?
Well, yeah.
Way to be politically.
He also looks out for Duke, and I appreciate that, man, because Duke was his man, $50,000 from
and he never switched
one.
up on him either. He never switched up on him.
If he started selling dope, then Duke started selling dope. When he started buying new clothes for himself and his brother, he made sure Duke was clean. When he bought the new crib, he let Duke move in. And that's a real homie right there, bro, because everybody was trying to shit on Duke. And he was even punking niggas from fucking with Duke. You know what I'm saying? Remember when he was on the corner?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He was like, why you fucking with Duke, nigga? You know what I'm saying? And they was really scared of Mike because Mike had that reputation of, he'll pop off at any moment.
Mike had them hands, too.
He had them hands.
I can understand how Mike can quickly become Omar because he had a strict code and he stuck by his code. He was respected. You could trust him. He's going to do what he's going to do. And even with Randy, you know what I'm saying? Even when they were calling Randy a snitch, you know what I mean?
He rolled with Randy too.
He rolled with Randy. It was like, so he stalled on him. He fought with him. Like if you was with him, he was with you. You know what I'm saying? You could depend on him to do what he's going to do. And that's what pissed him off about Naaman because he was only going out there with Naaman to help Naaman get his money back. You know what I'm saying? And he did that, beat Boy down, and then Naaman runs. So that just kind of, that was the final straw between him and Naaman.
Yeah, in fact, isn't the guy who played Michael Lee Tristan
Yeah,
Wilds?
Mac Wild.
Yeah,
The rapper? Yeah, Mac Wild. Yeah, the rapper.
Actually, him and Dookie are cousins, like in real life.
Yeah, in real life, yeah.
Dookie's like a singer, too.
Oh, for real?
Is he?
Yeah.
Oh, dude.
He's just not as
Dude.
popular as Mac Wiles.
Well, because
But no, I liked season. I mean, like I said, I liked Michael Lee's character, man, because like I said, he was a good kid all the way around, but he just knew he wasn't interested in doing schoolwork, even though he was smart enough to do the schoolwork. You know
He
what
just
I
had a
mean?
lot on his plate.
He was just interested in making a better life for him and his brother, man. That's all he was looking for.
I got a question for y'all. Who did y'all feel sorry for more, Duke or Randy? Whose ending was worse for you,
Randy.
Duke or Randy's?
Randy.
Yeah, Randy. Because you got to think, man, Duke made his decision. You know what I'm saying?
Not really, though. It was a circumstantial decision. Like, he made his decision because once Mike shot Snoop and he was out the game, like, Mike knew he was going to be hunted forever. So he took his little brother to the aunt, and then Duke was staying with Mike. That's the only reason.
Yeah, but Duke had freedom, man, to do what he wanted to do.
Duke didn't have a place to live.
Well, honestly, though,
but Randy was in the group home.
In the group
his ass
home.
whooped every day, though.
I think
he was
Prez
going
would have
to
looked
took
out
off.
for Duke.
You can
Prez,
move, bro.
if Duke would have went back to school and whatnot, I think Prez would have probably
Duke showed
like
up to
Now,
to
if
the
you
school.
remember,
If he
you
was
remember,
clean, if
the
he was
reason
clean.
why he did that is because they pushed those kids up, like they elevated them because they ran out of space. So Duke was being pushed to high school. That's why he dropped out, because the people that were taking care of him, making sure he was clean, they pushed him out of middle school and made him go to high school. So there was going to be nobody there to protect him anymore because Mike wasn't in school. He was going to be dirty. He didn't have any clean clothes or anything. So that's why he dropped out of school. If he'd have went back to school, he went back to high school. Nobody was there to protect him or do nothing.
Except for Naaman, bitch ass.
Naaman went across town on
Yeah.
you niggas and started
Naaman
to
Naaman went to private school.
Naaman with the live with Bunny Colvin.
Where he needed to be.
Naaman grew up in a good
Where he
home.
needed
We
to
bake.
be.
eating fresh
We
meals,
gave him
you
a
know
better
what I'm saying?
life.
Debate team.
Yeah.
That nigga Brody told Naaman, you soft as baby tissue, nigga, weak ass nigga.
What does Mama say? Put him in baby food.
No, she said put his bitch ass in baby tissue. Yo, mama talk to you like that, you know you weak.
You know you weak.
motherfucker.
All right, who's a worse mother, D'Angelo's mama or her? D'Angelo's
Shit,
mama made him
Oh,
take
Naaman
20
mama was
years.
terrible.
Name
bro.
a mama by
D'Angelo's mama
far.
made him take 20 years.
Yeah,
But
no,
at least she was looking out for the interests of
yeah,
the family.
that was just business.
And working.
That was just
That
business.
part of the
Yeah.
deal.
Hey,
That she was still working to get us. Naaman mama wasn't even working. She was just
Oh,
collecting money.
Shalonda Bryce.
She was collecting money from Avon because Avon told her as long as Wee Baby was in jail, he would
Right.
deal out as much money as possible.
And then Brianna cut him off, so she had name and Slinky.
Right, exactly. So because Brianna was like, look, the money drying up because we ain't got no people on the street making no money. We ain't got no corners. You know what I mean? So like the money flow stopped. And Avon was like, well, shit. He still had bread, but you know.
That's another great scene in The Wire too, with Weebay and Bunny Colvin when they were sitting down and Bunny was talking and telling him like, you know, he ain't built for this. That scene right there was a great scene in The Wire. And then when Weebay started talking to the mama, he's like, "You gonna let him go? I know that. My word is still my word. No matter
Man,
where I
you know
am."
what I'm saying?
You know what I'm
Like,
saying?
she knew that nigga was not
Yeah.
playing. Like, yo, I can still reach you from out in here. You know what I'm saying? I can still get to you. That's crazy.
Yep. So I guess now we got to get in
So
to
weak-ass season
the
5.
season I hate.
by far the worst of the
Can't get
series.
into it. Well,
Now you know what? Like I didn't like the main plot of the newspaper and all that.
Yeah.
I did like how Omar was hunting down Marlo. You know what I'm saying? That was
and calling them out.
yeah. And what we did skip
That's
over
'cause they
is
killed
we skipped
Butchie.
over the death of Butchie, which is Omar's mentor, or
Yeah.
whatever you want to call it. Father figure. You know what I'm saying? In season 4, because season
Christian
3,
Snoop basically
if you think about
tortured
season
him.
3, Omar steals from Marlo, big score. He takes the whole package, and then he retires. He's like, "Fuck it, I'm out." Took his little boyfriend. They went to Puerto Rico. They was chilling. Marlo couldn't let that shit stand, so then he go to Butchie.
Nah, that's season 4. That didn't happen in season 3.
No, season 4. My apologies.
Because what happened in season 4 was Marlo. Omar didn't even know who Marlo was. Marlo was still a young buck, even though he had took over. But Marlo was coming back because Marlo did leave at the end of season 3, but that was because he didn't believe that String and them was gonna leave him alone. He comes back in season 4. He doesn't even know.
Yeah, because he went to
who
New
Marlo
York.
is.
Yeah, Omar went to New York.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
So when he comes back, Proposition Joe uses him to go and rob the poker game because Marlo would go to those poker games with his homeboys and use 100 stacks. Well, he uses him to rob that poker game. That's how he gets on Marlo's radar, and that's why they start chasing him. At that point in time, he didn't even know who Marlo was. He just robbed it because he thought it was another game to rob. So that's what.
He not like he would be scared if he didn't know who.
No,
Marlo
he
was.
said he even said when they were talking to him about it, he said, "Would you have not done it?" He said, "Nah, I was just enjoyed it more." But the point is that Proposition Joe set him up to do it. So because Proposition Joe set him up to do it, that's why he started plotting revenge. And at the end of 4, he steals all the product because Marlo had finally
Which is
joined the
whole
co-op.
package.
Yeah,
So everybody's dope.
yeah, he joined the co-op. So all the dope was coming in one spot. So he robbed all of Baltimore essentially for all they dope, and then went back and sold it back to Proposition Joe. But
And then retired.
Cold-blooded.
Hey, the hardest line Omar ever said, boy, he said, "I guess these 2 4-5s beat them 2 9s."
Cold-blooded, man.
Hey,
Hey.
what?
Hey.
Fire, boy. But anyway, but yeah, he retires, he comes back, and then they end up killing Blind Man Butchie to get Omar to come back, man. That was sad. I was sad to see him go because he was just a man trying to get his money, man. He wasn't bothering nobody, man. He was just out there doing his thing. And then Omar was on the hunt. And
Butchie was supposed to be Venezuela, neutral ground.
yeah.
Yep.
So
Popping
that was
everybody.
my favorite part of the season because it was personal for Omar because normally Omar was stealing money, stealing dope, but he was throwing dope down the storm drains and blowing up the money and cars. He didn't care about that. It was personal. So I enjoyed that.
But we missed that in season 4 because in season 4, the only reason that because Marlo went about hunting because of Chris. Like I said, this is how Chris is different. They went about hunting they went about hunting Omar a lot different than Avon did. Instead of doing it in the streets, Chris was telling, Marlo wanted to, but he was telling them that's not the smart play. That's how Avon ruined his everything chasing him. So they set him up for that murder to get him arrested. And the only reason he was able to get out of county jail was because McNulty allowed him to call Butchie, and Butchie was able to throw those 2 dudes to protect him. If those 2 dudes wasn't in there to protect him, then Omar would have never made it out of lockup. That was the plan.
My favorite Omar part was where he walked across the town with a shotgun and with a 4.5 and some silk pajamas. Cheerio.
Hey, my man he wasn't even trying to get the pack. He was just trying to get
I
him
know.
And got a package
Yeah.
just because he was walking down the alley, man.
Hey, he told
Next
his boys,
time we had a
he said-
Cheerio, speak on it, yo.
Yeah,
And he's like, "Oh no," he said, "They ain't got no honey nut." You don't want no regular Cheerios, boy. You got that honey nut.
But yeah, season 5 by far though was my least favorite season. The whole made up serial killer plot made zero sense to me. Then the newspaper corroborating with it, and the media part was just boring.
It was.
Kind of felt out of place, and I just think that
Characters had no authentication at all. You know what I mean?
Well, the head editor did, but that was, I think they did that because they were writers. They were writers from Baltimore, and I think that they wanted to show their side of it, of how it is in the media game. We just didn't appreciate.
Well, but now also they were in the middle of a writer strike, so you could tell that season had gone. Yeah,
rushed.
So
and. Oh, go ahead.
No. Go ahead. I was just gonna say that.
Well, I was just going to say, Oh well, shit. We just cut each other off. Go. I'm trying to be a gentleman here.
So, I give season 5 some leeway because it did wrap up the whole Chris, Omar, Mike, Omar arcs. But yeah, I mean, they were in the middle of a writer's strike, so you could definitely tell this season was super rushed and not like very well done. But
yeah, we're just comparing it to like the other seasons, not to say like it's got
in and of itself. Yeah,
seasons, yeah,
it was weaker.
It was weaker. Yeah, it still has a significant. It brings everything together. It ends decently. Some people don't like how Omar went out,
right?
But
I love how Omar went out.
Well, no, it makes a lot of sense how Omar went out because, he's been doing his thing for so long. There was no way that anyone was going to, catch him.
That shocked me. I got to be honest. Like I didn't see that coming. I expected Omar to got, but I didn't expect it to be in a corner.
But not by Kennard.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
That's why I like it because throughout that they had built Kennard up to be this fearless kid that really doesn't give a shit but don't know any better anyway. You know what I'm saying? But he doesn't care. And you could see it building up. After Omar jumped out the window and he was crippled and he came through the block, Kennard was like, that's Omar? So it was like some of the fear. It's like once you knock Tyson out, like, that's Tyson?
Yeah.
Like you're not scared of him. Kennard wasn't scared of him at that point. And then when you see Omar walking through the street, like Kennard is down there like burning cats or some shit.
He one of the bad kids whose life was he gonna end up dead or in prison.
Basically, he's the future Marlo Stanfield.
Yeah, so all the other kids run off, and he just stands there looking, and he goes and shoots him. But that's what I'm saying. He would probably grow up to be the next Avon Marlo Stanfield because he just doesn't care. He's fearless. Like
I don't think he would.
I say Chris.
I don't think
Chris.
I don't actually think. I think he just comes big. I think he grows up to be a soldier. I don't think he grows up to be anything meaningful.
I think he's dead in 5 years. Like either he's dead or in prison in 5 years.
Because
a casualty.
He
to the
is.
System.
Look at Avon. Yes, he was a soldier, but he was also smart enough to know the game.
Kennard was just a killer. You know what I mean?
Exactly. That's it. So
well, Kennard,
he gonna be a soldier. He gonna be like Stinkum and get.
Yeah.
He's like O-Dog from Innocent Society.
Exactly.
Man, America's Nightmare. Young, black. And
don't give exactly.
Hey, but can we talk about how much of a G Omar is to get ambushed on the 5th floor of an apartment
and jump
and be like, fuck it,
jump out the window.
After he ran out of bullets, he dove out of the window, bro. That's some
take my chances
because he's not giving up on life. He's like, fuck it. If I'm gonna die, I'm gonna die by my own, not by some nigga popping me.
You know what, man? We were talking about Hollywood remaking stuff before we started recording. What if they just resurrect Omar and put him in John Wick? Man, that'd be the shit.
Well, they were talking about making that Omar prequel. And
now that would be dope.
It was greenlit for a minute, but it just never came out. It was supposed to be an Omar prequel. I either wanted an Omar prequel or I wanted a Mike turning into Omar. That's the only relevant.
See, and you could probably still do Mike and Omar now because they've aged. You know what I mean? You can't do a prequel now. I have a question though, and this kind of goes off of the legacy of The Wire. So we can all agree, like we said, The Wire is top 3 best shows all time, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So for the black community though. So this opened the door for something like Snowfall that we talk about, Power. Really just opened the door for The Chi, opened the door for all this. But was The Wire so good that like as a black community we're expect like the only interesting story are drug stories? So it's like we got the drug game in Baltimore, drug game in Chicago with The Chi, drug game in LA with Snowfall. Like, is that the only interesting thing that the masses want to see from black people? Because while The Wire was so good and so real, it was like, oh well, that's what niggas do all day it's real. That's how black people are perceived.
Well, I think it's more about the writing because like black people will watch something with good writing, but if it's not good writing, I mean, we're not gonna watch it because think it's something.
Oh, your ass like Empire. I don't know about that.
I love Empire.
Listen, I support black business. Y'all can do what y'all want. Y'all
I
can
do
shop.
too.
I ain't
but
watching
rocking
Empire.
with fucking Empire.
Shit
I'll
like
tell you
sitting
that.
around, you know
Come
what I'm
on,
Now
man.
you know
Come
what
on, Jamie, man.
Because The Wire is in the category of its own, right? But when you start looking at The Shy and you start looking at Power, you know, those end up with, well, almost ended up like in Power with Ghost making it out of the game. I think people like to see, I think black community like to see that person starting out in the drug game, but eventually trying to become something like a Ghost, where he was going to be in politics. He was going to be a huge role model. You know what I'm saying? He just got in the wrong. He was in the wrong. You know, Tariq is just a bitch ass nigga and shot him. But anyway, it's, you know, I think they like to see those type of success stories where it's like, yes, if you do start that, there you still can become of something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think it's just what we're marginalized into seeing, man, because as young black men, the way that we are portrayed in movies and television is often, in a lot of these stories, the gangster stories, where we're drug dealers and various criminal types. And I think it's just that type of violence that attracts us to those types of shows.
I mean,
can we agree on that?
Definitely entertaining.
Well, yeah, it's entertaining.
Yeah,
but
you know what I mean? But I also think that you got to think about it like this, too. We're creating our own narrative, because you can think about,
True.
In the 80s, you know, you didn't see, like, think of a movie like King of New York, right?
Right.
It was Frank White, a white guy, who had a whole bunch of niggas in his organization. But none of them niggas were important guys. You know what I'm saying? Now we're creating our own narrative where it's like we running the shit, you know what I'm saying? And if we go, somebody else is going to take our position at, you know, a person of our color. You know what I mean?
But when do we?
But I think also when you look at it, you got to look at it to the fact of it's also explaining how, like, black people get in those situations. Like, we can look at the big drug dealers like Avon and Stringer, but it also shows you how, like, you know, like we shit on people like Poop and Wallace. It's kind of situational. So it shows you how people get put in these situations where they may not necessarily want to be in this situation, but they're in this situation. So I think that even from shows like The Wire, The Shy, if you look at these situations, you can see that it shows that these people have layers. Just because they're in these situations and they have to do this or they have to be this way because of their environment doesn't mean like that's all that they are.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because Wallace was selling dope, but he was the dude that was helping all the little kids in the little
ready
complex,
for school.
you know what I mean?
Well,
he was helping them do their homework. He was keeping them on
right.
track. So you have those different layers to show that they're like that, but they're not necessarily like that because they want to be like that. It's because of the environment. That
Right. But the thing that I mean from a grander scale, right? It's like, so white people by and large probably watch that show and can recognize and respect that it's a good show, right? But the four of us can watch that show and see our community, right? Black people as a whole, on I would say a wider margin, like we all either know someone in the drug game, have been in the drug game, or like it's touched us in one way or the other, whether it was in the schools that we went to, in the neighborhoods that we lived in. And so we see it as just a part of like an extension of our lives to some regard, right? But I don't think that, I do think that the overall like success of The Wire has been like, well, the only roles that black actors can have or the only stories that black people can tell is from this perspective.
That's what you're saying.
I get it.
Because one thing about The Wire, what makes The Wire so good is because they show the pressures on everyone. Like, you can look at it from that perspective, but it also shows the pressures, like, because one of the shittiest people on that show is McNulty.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it shows.
And the other one is
Rawls.
Major Rawls, yeah.
Yep.
So it shows the perspective that, like KP said early, from every aspect, no matter what you're doing, it's just really shitting on Baltimore, if you want to be honest. It's not even really shitting on black people. It just shows in every aspect of Baltimore, whether it's the government, whether it's the union,
It's all
whether
corrupt.
it's the docks, no matter what, they all have these pressures because of the shitty environment that the city.
No, I see what you're saying, like as far as the show, but I mean like the actual success of The Wire. How has that hampered like overall black entertainment to the masses? Do you know what I mean?
See, I don't.
No, I get
I don't think it has.
I get what you're saying, but I think now that we're creating a narrative, we're also showing, you know, the corruption of, yes, you know, they can say black people, they're going to sell drugs, they're going to kill people. We can also show how the white man is doing the corruption, the guys in the politics and shit like that. Look at Snowfall, the CIA agent, he's running the whole show. He's white. He's corrupt. You know what I'm saying?
But,
look at In the Wire. Definitely with Major Walls wasn't corrupt, but he's fucking people over just to do what he wants to do to get where he needs to get. Same thing with Valchek. He's hating on Frank Sabaka, so he puts him in a situation where, okay, now you're not going to get what you were getting. You know what I'm saying? So while they can look at us and see that, we're still trying to show them, like, hey,
y'all play a part in this game
you guys
too.
are the cleanest in the
Yeah.
world. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So especially in Power specifically, you know what I'm saying? You see the guy that goes to try to help him, team up to get clubs, but he's got influence with the politics, and you see at the end, he helps out Lorenz Tate's character. You know what I'm saying? But he's still corrupt because he's like, look, I want you to do things my way, or you're not gonna get this fucking job.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I think it just comes down to good writing. At the end of the day, if it's written good and if it's well nuanced, then we're gonna watch it. Like, nobody's checking for Empire because it's bad writing. But The Chi, people will go to it and people pick up once. We're probably slower to go to watch things. We probably got to hear about that as good writing. But if it has good writing, then because nobody's checking for the Wood Harris and Marlowe movie that I sent out. I sent it on a group check. Nobody wanted to go look at it.
We might be bored in quarantine, but damn it, I'm not that bored.
I'm not trying to see Avon freestyling, bro.
Avon was a rapper. Marlo was the up and coming rapper. Man, I tried to send that to y'all. Y'all wasn't checking.
I like them for shows like The Wire, not for Avon.
Yeah.
Now, if you want to watch a show, if you want to watch a movie with Avon, watch Next Day Air.
Next Day Air is funny. Stoner movie. Oh yeah.
Hey.
Yeah, I've seen Next Day Air.
And
I like
my
Wood
boy-
Harrison
and my
above
boy
the
Wood
rim
Harris
too.
is in Empire too.
You said what now?
Said my boy Wood Harrison, he's in Empire too.
Man, stop it. Look,
You know what I'm saying?
nobody's watching Empire because of Terrence Howard
Hey, that's my guy.
and
Come
Jesse.
on, man.
Wood
Come on,
Harrison.
Petey.
His name is Jesse.
Petey, you ain't gonna watch my show, man. Come
I'm
on,
not
Petey,
fucking with you,
man.
man.
All it tells
Come
me is
on,
y'all don't
Petey.
support black business.
I do support black business. Hey,
Anyway, we need.
That's
to
what
get
this
back on
network
season
is for.
5. We jumping all over.
Hold
the
on.
place.
When they was talking about Jesse Smollett, right? When that nigga said he was going to Subway, I was like, bro, you out of there.
Jesse, why you do that, man? Why you go to
All right, man. Let's wrap this up and get out of here.
Yeah, let's wrap it up. So season 5, I mean, I see what McNulty's motivations were, because police budget got cut. Nobody's getting paid
Right.
overtime. He makes up a fake serial killer to try to throw people licks. It ends up bombing. Freeman goes along with it. They both end up getting fired. The news runs it, and the one guy wins a Pulitzer Prize from it. But other than that, I mean, it was just really wrapping up all of the loose ends of The Wire. It's taking all of these stories about the war on drugs and the fallacies of the war on drugs and wrapping them up in a nice, beautiful package in the end. So, of course, we just went over Omar getting killed. Really, Avon's still in prison. Marlo basically is given all of the opportunities that Stringer Bell wants it, but he kind of discards it because he wants the intoxication of being the king of the corner. And it was really telling in that last scene where, they go to the corner, or he walks up to the corner, and the guys are talking about Omar and how he went out and how much of a legend he was. Mm-hmm. And then he just asks, hey, do you know who I am? And they're like, who the fuck are you? Like, no. And then he pulls the gun on them or whatever. And, that really told me a lot, because he had everything that Stringer Bell wanted to be, but he just cared about being the king, like you said earlier.
I mean, I think I disagree with you when you say that he didn't get it. He ended up having it. The one thing that Stringer Bell didn't do is Stringer Bell thought he was smarter than everybody,
well,
so
right.
he didn't go through the lawyer to do it. The one Marlo actually listened to the lawyer. The lawyer told him
to Levy.
It was a bullshit deal that Levy took, because it was really to protect himself, because Marlo could have just got off clean, but really he did. He listened to Levy. That's why he was going to that party in the end, is because he sold the Connect for what he selling for $10 million,
Mm-hmm.
and that's when Slim shot Cheese. You know what I mean?
Boy,
What a good scene.
long time coming for that.
Yeah, but I think it was really successful for Marlo, because you see him actually listening, and even though he didn't want to transition to do it, he did it because he knew that the game was over. He was the king. He had his reign, and it was over. He didn't want to go to
somebody
jail. He didn't
else.
want to end up like Avon.
Yeah, it's a cycle, man. I mean, the players come and go, but the game continues on.
Yeah, they're not. And Marlo was definitely mad when old boy didn't know who he was. You know what I mean? But nobody's more powerful than Omar in The Wire, bro.
And then Marlo went on to rap against Avon Barksdale in the movie that Baby was talking about, that we will never watch.
You know what I'm saying? They got no burn.
All right, man. But yeah, man, the Wire's one of them. Like I said, my favorites are 3, 4. 3, 4, and then we get into 1, 2, 5.
I think 4 was the best one. 4 was the best season, followed by
3,
1.
4, 2.
Yeah, I got to go 4, 3, 1, 2, 5.
I got to go 4, 3, or 4, 1, 3, 2, and 5.
Yeah.
Y'all put a lot of disrespect on 3. It's so much shit
Look,
to
you
have
just
in.
we just don't have as much faith in Marlo as you do, bro.
I mean, y'all got to have faith in Marlo. If you look at everything that went down, like that was.
It was a pivotal season.
Bridge way to everything. 3 bridged everything. It closed out the Barksdales. It introduced Marlo. Like it introduced the political aspect of it. Like everything got bridged in with 3 to move on to 4. But all right, man. Anything else
Hey, man,
shout out?
Hey, man, just continue to check out the Too Smart Network. So, number 2, smartnetwork.com. You can catch pretty much all of us on there. You got a new episode of the Too Smart Dummies just went up today. We talked about the Heatles. So, definitely got to check that out. You got to check out When the Smoke Clears. In fact, this is the first episode of When the Too Smart Sexy Suburban Smoke Clears, man. So we'll try to do these like
between When the Smoke Clears and Sexy Suburban Dad.
And I just want to.
I think we'll just call this the round.
I want to give a shout out real quick. We do have something coming for the ladies. We've got a female centric podcast I think y'all are gonna love. So get ready for that.
Female centric.
the
boy sounding like BET Hurt.
we trying to do some big things over here for the ladies.
So basically they'll be talking about insecure on their podcast, and we won't be talking.
Yeah,
about
you know what I mean.
Hold on.
Hey, yo, I gotta be on the Insecure.
Same. Hey, I don't care what y'all say. We
New season.
yeah.
Sunday.
So
You and Marcus.
and then another
I watch it, but I ain't want to.
another future
It's
podcast.
dope, bro. Insecure is straight LA.
It's great, bro.
That's real shit.
Beatty,
It's
you're
great.
not part of the Lawrence Hive.
You know
You're
what
not
I'm
part of the
saying?
Lawrence Hive, bro.
It's great.
You ain't part of the Lawrence Hive.
Nah, I don't fuck with Lawrence.
Nah, Lawrence trash.
Oh, come on.
But in addition, we've got a nostalgic podcast coming for you guys as well. So if your wheelhouse, probably like most of us, was the 90s and the early to mid 2000s, if that was your prime, we got a show that you are going to love. Myself, another new guy to the network. Y'all going to love it, man. It's going to be funny, and it's going to bring back some good memories for you. So Too Smart Network got some big things going on.
Man, look at him like a light-skinned Byron
You know,
Allen over
hey.
there, man. He a mogul. Check
Hey.
him out.
We doing big things over here, like I said.
All right, as I said, it's gonna be www. Smart Network. Check us out for all upcoming content. You can always find it on Instagram at 2 Smart Network. You can find the 2 Smart Dummies at 2 Smart Dummies. You can look up When the Smoke Clears at When the Smoke Clears, or just put in Sweet Lou.
Sweet Lou. First one that pops up, baby.
Yeah. And then you got the Sexy Suburban Dad on Instagram also.
Yeah, well, I finally broke down and made a page for the podcast, so you can follow it at Sexy Suburban Dad Podcast on Instagram, or you can follow me at _mighty_carry. The Sexy Suburban Dad Podcast one's more interesting because all I do is talk about my dog and wrestling and shit, and you don't want to see that. But anyway, yeah, check us all out, man. We're on there. We appreciate just the views, the listeners, and the love that you guys continue to show us while we're all going through this quarantine, which is awful for our hairlines and our waistlines.
Man, speak for yourself.
Well, you got the nice widows people. I was like, Vegeta done came on the podcast, and look at him, boy.
Yeah.
Look at him. Even though you was hating on shit, I forgot already, man. It's 12:30. Let's wrap it up. Anyway, for the Fresh Prince of Fort Smith, Sweet Lou, for the 2 Smart Dummies, this has been KP.
Peace.
Yo, peace.
Peace.